What's up, guys? So, as you probably know by now, a little while back, we got to go out to EA Play, where we got to play a little bit of Fallen Order. Not the game itself, just like some combat kind of arena mode. But we did get to also watch an extended version of the gameplay they revealed during their presentation. But anyway, I thought it would be fun to answer a handful of questions from my patrons about the game, and I'll do my best to answer based on what I know. Nick Canavan asks what I think about Cal as a Jedi, since he doesn't seem to be following Jedi teachings all that closely in the gameplay. Could he end up going dark side, or is he a gray Jedi? I would agree with you that, yeah, he is killing a lot of people, and I mean, one of the game mechanics is that you run out of your Force powers, and to get it back, you hit people with your lightsaber, you do melee combat, and that recharges your Force, and I mean, that's a gameplay mechanic, of course, so you don't just spam the Force all the time, but yeah, that feels like it goes completely against Jedi teachings. It's very aggressive. I would kind of say, though, that Cal grew up during the Clone Wars. That's when he was a Padawan, and that's when the Jedi were kind of doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I do think that there's potential of him going to the dark. You never know. But I remember that the developers actually called Cal a gray Jedi at some point, even though I think that Lucasfilm is trying to steer away from that term. But yeah, I would say that for the sake of the game and for their game mechanics, Cal could be considered a gray Jedi, where he's not exactly following the teachings set up by Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. He's more aggressive, but ultimately I do think he's going to be a good guy. Nathan Primo and Ragnar want to know what other characters could potentially appear in the game, since we know Saw Gerrera is in it. I would guess maybe other members of the early rebellion, so maybe Bail Organa, maybe even, maybe not Leia. She'd have to be very young. This is 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, so she'd only be 5. Ahsoka is one that I think could potentially pop up, because she is operating as Fulcrum at this point in time. She started doing that only a year after Revenge of the Sith, and she met up with Bail Organa, so that's why I'm like, Ahsoka and Bail seem to make sense to me. Outside of that, there are some surviving Jedi Masters still around in the galaxy. We know that from the Darth Vader comic. So Apo Rancisis, maybe Quinlan Voss, they've both been listed as survivors. So I think there's potential for some familiar Jedi to reappear. Zachary Shively, Michael Ennis, and Mr. J.D. Rice all asked when the game takes place when it comes to Saw's storyline specifically. So again, this is 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. So for Saw, I think that means that this is after he has met Galen Erso and Jyn and Lyra. He has helped them escape Coruscant, but at this point in time, he doesn't have Jyn with him. They are still in hiding, so at the moment, I don't think that Jyn is going to be a part of this story at all. It's just going to be Saw and, I guess, his early partisans. William Tressel wants to know if the giant spiders on Kashyyyk are meant to be the one seen in Aftermath Life Debt, and could the game tie into any more Kashyyyk-related stories like the planned Clone Wars arc. So I assume that those spiders are the same ones, the same giant spiders described in Aftermath Life Debt. I don't know why they would introduce a new species. As for the Clone Wars arc, I could see maybe some elements tying in with that. They were going to get into kind of the spirituality of the Wookiees. They were going to summon like some natural forces to fight against the Separatists. The Bad Batch was supposed to be there. I would be surprised if the Bad Batch played into the story at all, but you know, maybe we could get into some spiritual Wookiee stuff. They hinted in my interview with the developers that we would get to experience the Shadowlands firsthand, so I can't recall if we've done that since KOTOR back in the day. I think that there's potential for that stuff, but I would be surprised if they were tying directly into the Clone Wars. Mark asks how I think Fallen Order will end, because it probably wouldn't have a happy one. Well, I don't know. My first gut instinct is that, yeah, Cal is not long for this world, because Yoda said to Luke, the last of the Jedi you will be after he dies. So every time they introduce a new surviving Jedi, I'm kind of like, well, all right. And there's all these technicalities where, like, Ezra is missing. Ahsoka wasn't really a Jedi, and she claims herself to not be a Jedi. Cal Yeah, I guess I'm thinking that he's probably going to die, whether that'll be in this game or in future installments of the series. I don't know. uh, but there's also potential, like we mentioned earlier, that, yeah, he could go to the dark side, or if he is a gray Jedi, like maybe he isn't a Jedi in the strictest sense. So it could still like technically fit, but it's like, yeah, he was a Force user trained by Jedi. It feels like that's just splitting hairs. But I'm more inclined to believe that he is just going to perish by the end of his story. Ragnar wants to know if Cal will try and fail to rebuild the Jedi Order with a whole group of survivors. I think there's potential there, and I like that idea. The Aftermath books mentioned a last stand of the Jedi that we have yet to actually see. I think that would be a pretty awesome way to end this series of games, if it's going to be a series. I mean, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order suggests to me that Star Wars Jedi could be a series. Whether or not that's continuing Cal's story, or like just they could all be one-offs, like this is Cal's story and then in the next iteration it'll be someone brand new. But I mean, if we were to do a trilogy, or who knows, maybe in this game it will show the last stand of the Jedi or something. I think that could be really cool and interesting, and an awesome way to see that last stand, if we're ever going to explore it. Ari Pavier asks if Fallen Order could tie in with Star Wars Rebels at all. I think yes, depending on the characters that appear. I mean, if Bail and Ahsoka pop in, then yeah, I think that would be tying in a way. Saw Gerrera appeared in Rebels, so there's a bit of a tie-in there. This is just kind of like another step on Saw's journey, though, and he's been in books and comics and TV shows and movies, so he's kind of spread out. Directly, though, with like Hera or Kanan, I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I don't think Cal is going to meet Caleb at any point, Kanan. Hera, maybe. I mean, if we were to go to Ryloth or something, that could be cool. But I'm not expecting any super strong connections with Rebels. Mega Mr. 46 wants to know if Fallen Order will have a T rating, or could it be rated M? I talked to the developers about this when I asked them about dismemberment, because a lot of people are having questions about that, and they said that it is a T-rated game, that it's very important to them that Star Wars remain for everyone, and they didn't want to exclude people by making it rated M, in the same way that I don't think we're going to have an R-rated Star Wars movie for a very long time, if ever. Thomas Scholin asks if Fallen Order will be worth the investment if you don't have a console or gaming system. I mean, I haven't played the game yet, so it's hard to say, but honestly, I'm never a person to buy a console or a computer or anything for just one game. You know, I mean, I don't really play my PS4 all that often. I play it when a new Uncharted game comes out, and I'll play it when Last of Us 2 comes out, but it's hard to say, like, yeah, you should spend $400 or $500 and then 60 more for the game itself just for that one thing. If you want to get back into gaming, then yeah, I think grabbing a PS4 or an Xbox or whatever and Fallen Order is probably a good way to get you back into it if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, which I assume you are. But if that's all you want it for, I would like maybe just go over to a friend's house. Remember when Blockbuster used to rent consoles and games? Whatever happened to that? Can you still do that? I don't even know. That would seem like the smart option. Aaron Young asks if we could run into Darth Vader in the game. I think that's possible, and I mean, if Cal is meant to die at the end of this story, that would certainly be a good way to do it, because taking on an Inquisitor is one thing, taking on Darth Vader is another. I did ask the developers about will we see any other Inquisitors, and they hinted that, yeah, we probably would, because the second sister is a part of this organization. She works for someone. It makes sense that we might see who she works for, so that could be the Grand Inquisitor. That could be Vader, because she technically works for both of them. I think it's possible that Vader will show up. Ragnar wants to know what the relationship between Cal and Saw might be. Will we go from respecting him to going against him? I also think that that's very possible. I mean, this is, like I said, another step on Saw's journey, And last we saw him was the Clone Wars. I guess that's the closest thing. And he's already like developed fully into the Forrest Whitaker version. I kind of wish that his armor were a little more transitionary, but yeah, I do think that he's going to see and respect this guy who is fighting back against the Empire, but at some point he's going to do something. He's going to go too far, and Cal is going to not be on board with that. So I think that's probably a very good guess that Cal will go from respecting this guy to turning against him. Not maybe like attacking him, but just walking away from that. Darth Krata asks who I think the second sister is now that we know it's not Barriss. People keep saying that, oh, they're just lying, and like look at the Arkham Knight, which honestly I haven't played Arkham Knight. I played the first two Arkham games and I loved them, but apparently Arkham Knight is Robin and they kept saying it's not Robin and then it was. I honestly don't think that's the situation going on here. I mean, for one thing, you would be expecting everyone that's playing the game to have also seen the Clone Wars and be attached to this character. And I should point out that I was 100% on board with the idea that the second sister was Barriss. She had a mask on, and whenever masks are around, I'm like, why aren't they showing that character's face? It must be someone we know. But they straight up told me that, like, everyone is guessing this, and it makes so much sense. It's a great guess, but they're just trying to like set expectations, and they're saying that it's a brand new character. I think that they're telling the truth. So I do think that it's not Barriss, and I don't think it's anyone else. I think that it is a brand new character. I'm sure we'll see her face at some point, but I wouldn't expect it to be anyone familiar. We'll see come November. I might eat my words, but for now I am choosing to trust them. Somchate Wasant Wizit, I'm so sorry for how I just pronounced your name, wants to know if the Force Echo ability is related to the psychometry ability used by Quinlan Vos. Yes, it is. They actually told me as much in my interview with them. I asked them about the different Force powers and Force Echo specifically, and they were like, yeah, it's basically Quinlan Vos's psychometry ability. They said it was that. So yes, I think that they're basically one and the same. Psychometry is more about touching an object and reliving its history. Force Echo seems like it's more about touching a being. And of course, this is all just game mechanic stuff. It's a way for you to explore and catch different details, extra little story bits here and there. But yeah, they basically said it was very much related to psychometry. Rick Villanueva asks if we could start to explore some Old Republic lore in the game, or will it just be briefly seen or used as a Macguffin? So the lightsaber design looks like it's an ancient design, and I think you find it in an old temple of some sort. So I could potentially see there being some hints for what's to come. I don't think they're going to open the floodgates on the Old Republic in this game. I think that the floodgates will be opened with a movie. I think they know that's what people want, and it's a huge era to explore. It'll be exciting. So I think they're saving the big reveal for a movie, but that doesn't mean they can't start hinting at little things here and there. So yeah, I think there's going to be some connection with ancient Jedi, whether it could be Old Republic or it could be like super ancient Jedi. It could be like the OG Jedi before they were even part of the Republic. But yeah, I think we're going to start getting a little taste of what the galaxy was like in the olden days. Cosmic Outpost wants to know if you can change your appearance at the start of the game like Mass Effect. I would say 99% no. They cast Cameron in this role as Cal, and they're very insistent that this is Cal's story. It's a canon story, so I think that they're trying to show this one character and what happens to him definitively, and there won't be a whole lot of like you inserting yourself into the character of Cal. It's just going to be Cal and you control him. Eric asks if the lightsaber scene in the trailer and art could be related to the etched Dueler's lightsaber from the Old Republic MMO. Will we learn anything new about lightsaber designs in the game? So I had to look up the etched Dueler's lightsaber because I've never played the Old Republic. Shockingly, I know a lot about it, but I have never touched it myself. And it does look very similar, I will admit. I would be surprised if it had anything to do with it. I think it's probably just a similar design. Maybe they borrowed it, or, maybe it's something that they pulled from the Old Republic and are making canon now. Will we learn anything new about lightsaber designs? I think that's possible. I mean, they have said that you can customize the design and the color of the lightsaber throughout the game. So yeah, I think there's potential to learn some new stuff there. Rick Haas wants to know if BD-1 could be a precursor to droids like Dio from Battlefront 2, who also perches on Iden's back. I think it's possible, but probably not. I mean, maybe. He doesn't fly, but again, precursor. Yeah, there's potential there, but I think BD-1 is just a brand new design to us. They actually said that in story, he's kind of an old droid, and they aren't around very much anymore. And he's more of a, exploratory, helpful droid than I would see Dio to be. But, they could have taken some of those same design concepts with how it attaches on your back and stuff. So, possibly, but I'm thinking right now that there's no connection. William Tressel asks about the casting process for Cameron Monaghan in contrast to the process for Janina Gavankar. It actually sounds like they were very similar. So for Iden, for example, I think they knew that they wanted a female lead because they wanted to explore that father-daughter relationship with Admiral Garrick Versio. And other than that, I think they just knew what they wanted her personality to be, and then they went casting. And that's how they were focused. They wanted to find someone who could match that energy and personality. They found Janina Gavankar. And I think that's the same deal with Cal, is that they were looking for someone. I think they knew they wanted a male lead. And then they went out and they looked for someone to match that energy. And they said at Celebration that they went through a lot of people. I would also watch my interview with them because I asked them about this and they go into it in a fair amount of detail. But they also said that some characters that they were casting for, like Seer, they didn't have a gender or a race or an age, or really, I mean, I think they knew that Seer had to be older than Cal as a full-fledged Jedi Knight. But some characters, they just kind of, again, they had the personality, but that's all that was important. I think that they probably wanted a male lead. And who knows, that is probably going to play into the story somehow, similar to the way that I think Iden being a daughter was important in Battlefront 2. Alden Diaz wants to know if we'll ever be able to build our own BD droid at Galaxy's Edge. Maybe. I could always see room for expansion at Galaxy's Edge, and I mean, they're going to have to introduce new products to get people to go back and visit. So once you build to BB droid and an R2 unit, well, now I can build a BD, so I'm going to go back and do that. I will say that looks a little more difficult. I think BD has a lot more moving parts, and he's got legs and everything, which is probably a little harder than just like a ball or a trash can with wheels on it. So I don't know. I wouldn't expect it anytime soon, but I wouldn't rule it out. Ben Dabib asks if Fallen Order could affect the way we look at Star Wars Rebels, specifically Saw and how his journey is presented. Similar to the question we had about him already. I don't know. I guess I already have my opinion on Saw, and I am not expecting there to be any crazy new revelations with him in this game. So I'm kind of doubtful, but then again, I don't know why they would bring him in if they didn't have something to say about the character. So there's probably going to be something in there that changes us slightly in how we look at him, but I'm not expecting anything just earth-shattering. So there you go, 20 questions about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order answered. All of those questions were taken from my patrons, so thank you guys for being so supportive of this channel and helping us out, asking us questions when we need them. It really means a lot to us. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.